In the past few years, PTZ cameras have gained a lot of new features, such as IP streaming, power over Ethernet, and automated tracking. The good news is that means PTZ cameras are more capable than they've ever been before. The unfortunate news is that it sometimes means that they're not as intuitive to operate as we'd like. In an ideal world, PTZ camera systems are fully featured and intuitive, empowering creatives to focus more on content and less on technical specs. We have our hands on Canon's CR-N500 and 700 PTZ cameras to test out their new auto tracking and auto looping applications. Canon's auto tracking app offers easy-to-use on-screen tools to control composition, frame size, tracking sensitivity, and more. Their auto looping application cycles through various presets to add repeatable camera movements to your shots. So today, we're at a studio in Midtown Manhattan testing out Canon's new auto applications to see just how intuitive it is to set up and operate a 3-camera setup. Let's start by going over what we brought with us today. Our goal is to keep our kit as streamlined as possible. So we brought a laptop with OBS for switching, a PoE++ network switch for power and control, Ethernet cables, an audio interface, tripods, and of course, the PTZ cameras. Canon's auto tracking and auto looping software is compatible with their CR-N300, 500, and 700 cameras, but today we're only working with the CR-N500 and 700. Both cameras can receive power over Ethernet, so the only things we need to power are the laptop and the network switch, all of which are right next to each other. So far, we've saved ourselves from running power and video cables to each of the cameras thanks to our network-based setup. In this small setup, it would not have been the end of the world if we had to run some extra cables. However, for house of worship, theaters, and event halls, it can save time and money to set up and maintain fewer cables. Canon's cameras by default are set up to automatically create IP addresses. Simply download the camera search tool and find all the cameras on the network. Then use their IP addresses to access their web portal. This portal will grant you access to see the feed from the camera and control just about everything. Before we can use either of these applications, we need to activate them first. You can find the activation in the settings part of the web browser portal. Once the app is activated, it will be available in the camera control section. Scroll all the way to the right and then select add-ons. The application will open up in a new tab. Canon's auto tracking application is one of the more fully featured options on the market. My favorite aspect of the app is a silhouette. Canon displays a silhouette on screen that represents where the camera intends to position the subject. By moving the silhouette to different parts of the screen, you can change the composition of the frame. Whatever you decide, the camera will work to maintain that as closely as possible. Next, you'll see a slider to control the frame size. You can choose from 5 settings that range from full body to close-up. We felt that the camera's tracking was very responsive, which led to the camera following literally every single movement. To mitigate this, there is a tracking sensitivity option that can dial down its responsiveness. This helped produce smoother, more professional results. For subjects that are moving closer and further away from the camera, there's also an auto zoom control. This enables the camera to zoom in or out to maintain its composition as the subject changes its distance from the camera. There don't seem to be as many dedicated controls for the zoom tracking, but you can disable them if you like. The auto tracking software also has a lot of options to control where the camera tracks its subjects. Exclusion zones allow you to create zones where the camera will ignore subjects. This allows subjects to exit the frame without the operator manually toggling a start-stop tracking button. You can also set pan and tilt restrictions on the camera to keep it focused on the area that it needs to be focused on. Naturally, the next question is, what happens when the camera loses its subject? You can create an initial position as a default field of view for the camera. The last tracking feature we will discuss is a priority area. This allows the camera to ensure that a specific area is always within the frame. This comes in handy for PowerPoint presentations where you have a speaker who is moving in front of a screen and you want to track both the speaker and the PowerPoint simultaneously. Now, let's get into the auto loop software. This tool feels like a natural expansion of preset functions that have existed in PTZ cameras for decades, but in practice operates similar to what you'd expect from motion control devices like sliders. You have the option to set preset positions, the speed of the transition, and how long it will hold each position, and whether or not it will go forwards or backwards through the list. There are 2 modes that govern how the camera will move: continuous and reciprocal. In continuous, the camera will cycle through the positions, then return to the first position after the last one. In reciprocal mode, after reaching the last position, the camera will cycle backwards through the list. Depending on your situation, each mode has their strengths. The continuous mode is great when you set up your keyframes in such a way that the first and last are the same or at least very close to each other. The reciprocal mode is great when your first and last key positions are far apart from each other, as will eliminate the need for the camera to rush back to the first position. This mode seems really intriguing for content where you don't have a lot of movement, such as interviews. You could easily add a loop that adds a little camera movement that is visually interesting without being distracting. All in all, Canon's camera movement add-ons add a ton of utility to their PTZ cameras. The PTZ tracking add-on empowers cameras to do a lot more than just track a subject. The software provides tools to compose shots, fine-tune sensitivity, remain focused on areas that are important, and intelligently start and stop tracking subjects. The tracking application will be a great fit for theaters, houses of worship, and event halls that facilitate events with multiple speakers, demonstrations, and PowerPoint presentations. The Auto Loop add-on is a big step up from conventional presets that are common amongst PTZ cameras. The automation allows users to control PTZ cameras closer to how one would control motion-controlled cinema equipment, allowing Canon PTZ camera operators to be a bit more creative in how they capture video. The Auto Loop add-on is a great option for anyone who wants to use these cameras for interviews, podcasts, and more. Despite the advanced features within these applications, they're straightforward to operate. Network-based setups are intimidating for good reason. Very small mistakes can lead to hours of troubleshooting before you figure out how to solve the problem. Thankfully, Canon software makes their cameras easy to set up and intuitive to operate. Tools like Silhouette make it easy to visualize what your results will look like. Settings that don't have drag and drop functions are explained well and easy to understand too. Canon's auto tracking and auto looping applications are intuitive add-ons that will help normal PTZ camera operators pan, tilt, and zoom with the best of them. What are your thoughts on Canon's auto tracking and auto looping applications? Can you see yourself kicking your feet up and relaxing while the Canon PTZ cameras do all the work? Let us know in the comments below. I'm Jabari with B&H. Have an awesome day.